There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer and meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. I will now ask the Secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 32, Telecommunications and Postal Services Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. I now invite the Honorable Minister of Telecommunication and Postal Services, Honorable Kwele, to lead the debate.
Honorable House Chairperson, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, honorable members, leaders of the ICT industries, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. I'm pleased to lead the budget vote 32 on telecommunication and postal services of 1.4 billion rands for policy debate and adoption by the House. During this historic year of the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, the Charter continues to guide our policies as we implement our Vision 2030, the National Development Plan. We are part of the revolution that is driven by the fast-speed internet broadband. It is against this backdrop that we commend His Excellency President Zuma and the African National Congress for establishing this new department with the focus on radical social economic transformation of our society using ICT to deal with the effect of persistent unemployment, inequality, and poverty prolonged by the legacy of the apartheid. In line with the international trends, it is critical for the availability of the wide use of the ICTs is critical for the socio-economic development and will make South Africa globally competitive. House Chair, after much planning and consideration, it was announced by His Excellency President Zuma that in this financial year, we'll begin with phase 1 of broadband rollout in 8 rural districts, which are Vembe, Kenneth Kaunda, Pisi Kaseme, Tauma Fusinyane, Gersibande, Umzinyathi, Mkungundlovu, and OR Tambo. The objective of this rollout is to roll out scalable broadband infrastructure to connect all government institutions in this district over the next 3 years. At the same time, we are finalizing business case and funding plan for phase 2 of the broadband rollout for the rest of the country to be implemented from 2016 to 2020. In this current financial year, we've been allocated 200 million rand to begin connectivity in these districts. Distinguished guests, we have already visited Vembe, Mzinyathi, Mkungundlovu, and OR Tambo. We have been encouraged by the political, traditional, and community leaders who enthusiastically welcomed this project in their district. We'll be visiting the remaining district in the next 2 weeks. House Chairperson, I wish to take this opportunity to recognize the mayor of our Tambo district, Councillor Makosazana Meth, as well as my special guest, Ms. Lindelani Malinda, a student from Tengwe High School in Vembe. Honorable members, Telkom's designation as a lead agency for the broadband rollout is based on the investments it has made in rolling out an extensive fiber network, which accounts for 86% of the existing 170 kilometers of national fiber. The department will be finalizing the business case, which will be demonstrating the value for money and the appropriate legal prescripts in final designation of Telkom as a lead agency for this broadband rollout. However, it is worth noting that Telkom on its own has committed most of its 5 billion capital budget towards reaching more areas and upgrading its technology as their main contribution to the implementation of South Africa Connect. Broadband rollout is a huge but urgent project, which must not be delayed if we are to remain globally competitive. Honorable members, Broadband Infraco has allocated 319 million over the next 2 years to extend its broadband infrastructure by 1,000 kilometers. It plans to establish 41 new points of presence, including in underserviced towns such as Ulundi and Stenga. However, due to the projected cash flow challenge, the company has scaled down 30 infrastructure projects for upgrade to the value of 450 million rand. In addition, we have advised Broadband Infraco to further scale down the non-critical projects for it to continue as a going concern. Fellow South Africans, over the last 3 years, the Universal Service and Access Agents of South Africa, USASA, has radically changed the lives of the people of Umsinga, Emalahleni, Jomaralong, and Ratlo municipalities, who were previously had little or no access to telephony or internet. USASA deployed and upgraded mobile networks to offer broadband, benefiting schools, small businesses, and community members. I'm aware that some of the committee members have visited some of these sites. I also had the opportunity to visit Umsinga and Emalahleni recently, where I met mayors, councillors who are monitoring the positive impact of this network and asking for their extension. All of them testify that these technologies are improving service delivery. As an example, we visited a local clinic at Malhleni municipality in the Eastern Cape, which is now connected to 3G speed network. The clinic now is online and using internet to improve its service delivery. The nurses informed us how ordering medicine online has reduced the delays from 2 months just to 2 days. In addition, they say they no longer experience problem of expiring medicines in their storerooms, as they now do not have to order bulk medicine, but only order what they actually need. We also visited in the same municipality a young entrepreneur, Vuisega Katoto, who used to sell vegetables at the street corners, but because of the availability of these networks, now operates from home and has expanded to sell high-value services such as airtime and electricity. Honorable members, they say these technologies are improving service delivery and people's lives. But it's Yakub. This financial year, USASA will upgrade the networks at Mutale and Chief Albert municipalities, connecting 10 further schools. The agency is also planning to connect 3 schools for people with disability. In this year, the department will work with the CASA, the regulator, to review the levy for the Universal Service Access Fund, USEF. The aim is to align ourselves to the 1% charged by developing countries if we are to narrow the digital divide in these underserved areas. Honorable members, on the 6th of March this year, Centec completed its digital network deployment for digital migration. The network is ready, and they have 108 million for dual illumination this year. The entity is also spending 180 million to upgrade its infrastructure. More importantly, last year, Centec, through its social corporate responsibility project, connected community radio broadcasters to the parliamentary channel, which means our communities are now able to easily follow the work we do in Parliament. I'd like to greet all the listeners of the community radio station who have tuned in to listen to today's parliamentary proceeding. Chairperson, we wish to commend the mobile and IT companies that have joined hands with government in rolling out internet connectivity. Just last Sunday, the community of Kunu benefited from the upgrade of the network to LTE and received a donation of connected computers in their local library. The librarians, students, farmers, the unemployed, and ordinary people now have the same access to high-speed internet as those who live in richer suburbs of Joburg and Cape Town. Indeed, the people of Kunu, such as one of our visitors today, Miss Anda August, who is from Mandela Schools of Maths and Science, which is currently not connected, can also proudly say that the internet is the greatest equalizer of the world today. But it's distinguished guests, all state-owned entities responsible for ICT infrastructure, specifically broadband, are now under the department to achieve greater coordination and efficiency. During this financial year, the department will finalize the strategy for their rationalization. CETA will be driving e-governance and security of these networks. NEMISA will be driving the massification of this skill. The .ZETNA will be driving allocation of domain addresses. The Honorable Deputy Minister Mkhize will elaborate on these programs. The strategic turnaround of the post office has been finalized and will be submitted to Cabinet for approval. Let me take this opportunity to thank Honorable Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa for his leadership and wise counsel in this process. The plan has identified and prioritized key strategic interventions to bring stability to the post office. We will prioritize the monitoring of the effective implementation of all aspects of this strategy. The first and the most urgent priority is the appointment of the board of directors. This process is already underway. At the same time, we will be expecting SAPO to appoint capable management to drive the implementation of the turnaround. The deployment of efficient ICT infrastructure to enable delivery of modernized and efficient postal and banking services will be critical to this turnaround, SAPO's turnaround. In the next 2 years, priority will be given to connect all post offices to the broadband network and to upgrade its IT systems. A new business model has been highlighted as a key in the new approach. SAPO will reduce its over-reliance in the mail business and move towards balanced revenue with focus on the retail, logistic, post-bank, and other e-services. We would like to thank the trade union movement, which continue to work with us as we stabilize the labor environment at the post office. I would like to make a call to all stakeholders to join hands in the effort to regain customer confidence and loyalty. House Chairperson, despite challenges faced by SAPO, the company rolled 500,000 addresses last year. In addition, SAPO attracted 36 unemployed graduates from poor communities to participate in its work experience program. We are pleased to announce that 2 of those students who benefited from this program, Leon Isaacs and Sianda Koboza, have joined us today as employees, not just students, of SAPO. So we can proudly say, Post Office delivers whatever it takes. We'll work with the CASA to improve the regulation in the postal industry, including that of the Extraterritorial Office of Exchange. Honorable members, we remain committed to the program of financial inclusion through the corporatization of the Post Bank. We have made progress through the interaction with the South African Reserve Bank in the following areas. Firstly, We have finalized the asset and liability separations between SAPO and the Post Bank. We have provided the 5-year cash projections for the Post Bank. We are currently finalizing the fit and proper assessment of the prospective candidate for the Post Bank board, and we are finalizing discussions on the bank's holding company in line with Banks Act and the Post Banks Act. Fellow South African, on the 23rd of April, I received a final report of the National ICT Policy Review process. It is evident that many South Africans participated in this process through public hearings and written submissions. The report represents an overwhelming sense of South Africans working together to bring about policy environment that will make our task of using ICTs for development a success. Key policy areas that will be included in the, that are included in the recommendation include: 1, policy on the universal and affordable, equitable access to communication infrastructure by all South Africans; an open access policy which will reduce the duplication and allow infrastructure sharing and direct competition away from infrastructure to services; a rapid deployment policy to enable the deployment of infrastructure for connectivity at low cost and removing bottlenecks; a policy on the growth of the sector and local manufacturing in order for small businesses to thrive and create jobs through ICTs; and lastly, a national policy on spectrum to deal with the use and allocation of this scarce resource. The government is studying the recommendations in the report with the aim of finalizing the National Integrated ICT White Paper for submission to this Parliament next year, in this financial year. I'd like to thank the panels for their sterling work. I want also to extend my gratitude to the public for their active participation in providing us with these contributions. Chairperson, I'm happy to announce that last Friday, more than 300 South Africans from across the spectrum, ICT and NGOs, trade unions, joined me to launch the National ICT Forum, which will assist in the implementation of policy and the development of the ICT sector in South Africa. The forum has organized itself around 4 chambers, including economic chamber, social, governance and security chamber, and lastly, the sector which deals for inclusion of the marginalized groupings, particularly people living with disability. Chairperson, as we roll out broadband and increase the uptake of the use of this ICT, we need to assure the public, assure the confidence that these networks are secured. We have made progress in the establishment of the cybersecurity hub we announced last year in collaboration with the CSIR. I recently visited the hub and was privileged to experience what it has to offer. We will continue to work together with the public and the private sector to expand the capabilities of this hub as we prepare for its official launch in August this year. On the international front, we'll continue to participate in the multilateral and international fora, including the World Radio Congress to be held in November this year. In addition, we'll work with the BRICS countries to establish the ICT working group and plan of action for collaboration on ICT issues. Fellow South Africans, I'm aware of the ongoing leadership challenges which has negatively impacted on the ability of the department to execute its functions timelessly. I'm attending to these challenges as a matter of urgency in order to ensure that the department delivers on its mandate. In conclusion, I would like to extend my gratitude to all members of the Portfolio Committee under the leadership of Honorable Kubai for their excellent oversight work. Thank you to my own Deputy Minister, Professor Mkhize, for excellent support. I would like to thank the Director General and all employees of the department for their assistance and my ministry staff for their dedication. Let me also thank the support I received from my wife and my family who are with us here today. I call on this House to endorse this budget vote for the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Before I continue, may I welcome our distinguished guests in the gallery. Your presence here is highly appreciated. However, the bad news is that you cannot participate in the proceedings of this House, and that includes clapping of hands. So work with me to maintain the decorum of the House. I thank you very much. We now continue, and I invite the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Mchabiseki Kubai.
Nakensam Tamiwashtulo, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister of DTPS, members of Parliament, board chairpersons, board members, CEO presence, the students from the UCT who have been observing our process as Parliament in how we pass budget, stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, Liperil. Let me first acknowledge that on this day in 1978, in our political calendar of events, the leader of SACP and an ANC stalwart, Ndate Kotani, died in Moscow. Therefore, congratulate the South African government for ensuring that his remains are brought back to the South African soil as we celebrate 37 years of his passing. Similarly, 20 years earlier on this day, in 1958, England Postmaster announced the first direct dial phone calls. The new automated telephone connection meant that operator was no longer needed. Indeed, the communications tools and methods has evolved over time, and now the matter is about the quality of service, affordability, accessibility, and coverage provided within this space. Honorable members, President Zuma declared this year the year of Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter is a living document and shouldn't be treated as some recitation, but a document that carries a mandate for all of us from the people of South Africa. At the core of government's mandate is the transformation of the economy and inclusive growth. Radical economic transformation requires coordinated interventions in a number of sectors to fundamentally alter the structure of the South African economy. This requires an effective state that is decisive in its pursuit for structural change. The mandate is, amongst others, amongst others, advance SMME and cooperative development through set-asides for SMMEs and co-ops to lift the informal sector of the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a slogan, but a mandate from the people of this country. I quote, "The people shall share in the country's wealth," unquote. There is a strong need to focus on transformation in this sector. Chairperson, South Africa continues to face the triple challenges, which are poverty, unemployment, and growing inequality. Creating employment is not only the responsibility of government, but that the sector has a role to play. In recent years, we witnessed more and more announcements in this sector to shed jobs, which is seriously worrying, especially at the time when the NDP calls for bold leadership from both public and private sector to create job opportunities for the economy to make South Africa even better country for all of us who live in it. While we cannot instruct private companies and entities on how to run organizations effectively, we equally cannot clap hands when more South Africans will not have means to provide for their families. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a challenge that we must not only face, but all of us must find lasting solutions to it. We cannot build a stable country and stable company when majority of the people of this country have no means to survive. It is a risk for all of us if we are faced with this situation. In fact, the sector-wide organizational rationalization of staff flies in the face of the Freedom Charter we celebrate this year. In particular, the clause that says, I quote, "There shall be work and security," unquote. This, again, ladies and gentlemen, is not a slogan, but a mandate for all of us to follow. Honorable members, the story of South Africa is not about people who quit when things got tough. It's about people who kept going, who tried harder, who loved their country too much to do anything less than their best. It's the story of men and women who gave up everything to set this organization 103 years ago. It is a story of those who overcame a depression and fought for just and fair treatment of all human rights. It is a story of men and women who gave up their lives so that South Africa can belong to all who live in it. It is a story of young and old that believe that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is who we are as South Africans. To respond to the challenges that are faced by this country, the ANC-led government, in partnership with the role players, agreed on the long-term planning of all sectors, the National Development Plan Vision 2030, to expedite the creation of a better South Africa, and the future is undoubtedly broadband. I need to say this. Even if the future is mobile, fixed broadband will still play a vital role. But the lack of access to the 2.6 GHz bands for LTE is impacting negatively on the quality of the mobile and fixed line broadband data networks in South Africa. We look forward, Honorable Minister, to the development and publishing of the spectrum policy to ensure growth in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the Portfolio Committee, as part of its mandate, received the strategic plans and annual performance plans from the department and its entities for interrogation so that it can make recommendation to Parliament on the budget vote of the department and its entities as per the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act of 2009, which allows the committee not only to reject or pass a vote, but this act equally allows the committee to intervene in the budget. Over the medium period, the overall department budget will increase from 1.4 billion in 2015-2016 financial year to 1.5 billion in 2016-2017 financial year. And the budget is also projected to decrease to 1.3 billion during 2017-2018 financial year. From the budget of 1.4 billion, I've been saying million, it's billion. From the budget of 1.4 billion allocated to the department for the 2015-2016, 679.7 million or 48.1% is allocated for current payments, which includes compensation of employees and goods and services. In the 2015-2016 financial year shows a different picture on the overall allocation of the department. The large portion of the department's budget, which amounts to 642.8 million or 46%, is allocated to ICT support, infrastructure support. It is important to note the opportunity, honorable members, created by the decision by the president of this country, the head of state, to create two departments from the old DOC. We have constantly shown, and we have reiterated as the committee and members the importance of this decision, especially from an ICT point of view, because we feel that previously there hasn't been much emphasis and focus on the work on ICT. We support the process initiated by the Minister for rationalization and repositioning of the department to ensure there are no duplicates of mandates and that there is value for money in department and the entity. We have requested the Minister to look at capacity of the department and act in the best interest of the public and the sector. The committee felt that special attention should be given to the program that has been underspending in the past and also ensure that SOC unit is strengthened. We further raised concerns on the increased amount allocated for consultants compared to the previous year, and this is specifically because the President, as the head of state, instructed departments to reduce costs on consultants during his State of the Nation address. In this regard, we advised the department to submit a revised plan for this money. On USASA, ladies and gentlemen, the committee commended the work done by the entity and the stability that is currently there, while noting the important role played by USASA on digital migration project. It is also important that all the work done by this entity is not overshadowed. The projects by USASA to connect rural communities remain critical. We witnessed this work when we visited Umsinga during our oversight. We welcome plans for more rural communities to benefit from this total universal connection. These aren't just limited to a school or police station, but USASA's new model connects the community in its entirety. As the committee, we observed that this current policy and legislation environment for USASA needs to be reviewed in line with the modern broadband and data services, as its mandate was developed to cater for the telephony era, and we look forward to that, Minister. On INESI, the committee noted the importance of ensuring that there is a drive to develop skills within the sector, especially focusing on young people. We will monitor the progress of the measure and the link of this institution to the training sector as envisaged in our report, as we said in our report, pardon me. On SAPO, we commend the work done by the Deputy President, Minister and the Administrator and the current management of SAPO, but more importantly, the workers at the post office, to stabilize and stop the bleeding at the company. The turnaround strategy creates an opportunity to build an organization that is reliable, accountable, credible, that is run effectively. We continue to urge all stakeholders within the postal sector to work together to create a South African post office of the future. It is possible, ladies and gentlemen, it can be done. On CETA, the entity presented documents that were rejected by the committee and was requested to resubmit, and this was done. There is a need for the entity to focus and start delivering on its mandate. We welcome the announcement by the Minister to look at this CETA most closely. We believe attention must be paid to the structure of the entity, the board, the legislation, policies within the institution to ensure it delivers upon its mandate. We believe the appointment of Dr. Mohapi gives hope. However, we believe the environment at CETA needs to be addressed holistically. Otherwise, Minister, we fear that we might see the 19th CEO. At this point, I want to thank, on behalf of the committee, Mr. Nomvalo, who was the CEO of CETA, who worked hard during his tenure under difficult environment, and we wish him well into his future endeavors. On broadband in FACO, the entity's financial difficulties hampers it against achieving its objectives and founding legislation. The committee has requested the Minister of Finance and Minister Twele to urgently pay attention to the situation at BBI and ensure there are no unintended consequences. On Centec, we call it the flagship entity. The committee commended the good work done and congratulated the entity on its 100% signal state of readiness relating to digital migration. Furthermore, we noted the stable environment within which the entity operates, and we wish to congratulate the former CEO who has now joined CETA, together with the board that has gone. We want to wish them well in their future endeavors, but as well congratulate them for the work that they have done in driving the ship at CETA.
Honorable member. Round up.
Okay. The above is just a few and more detailed observations and recommendations are in the report tabled by the committee. In conclusion, Chairperson, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. If all of us can take the first step of ensuring that we do what we are expected to do, surely we should be able to build a thriving ICT and postal sector. It can be done. It is possible. The African National Congress supports the budget vote 32. Thank you.
Akensa Mchabiseki Kubai. We continue and invite Honorable Mackenzie to take the debate forward.
Thank you, House Chairperson. While this isn't the health debate, I want to talk about 4 doctors and 1 very sick patient, the South African Post Office. The first doctor is the appointed administrator, Dr. Sima Lushaba, whose turnaround plan aims to miraculously turn a 2015 loss of 1.2 billion into a massive 1.3 billion profit in just 2 years by 2017. How's the doctor going to effect this miraculous cure? Like a surgeon, he'll cut and cut. Almost 3,000 staff will be chopped, 8 mail processing hubs and 652 retail branches will be shut down. He says he'll put this patient on the road to recovery by cutting out its heart, liver and lungs, and yet still grow revenue, doing much, much more with much, much less. But how will he do this? Well, SAPO aims to generate 55% of its future business on the back of a cabinet instruction that government must redirect at least 30% of its mail and logistics business to the South African Post Office. The DA's values charter is based on freedom, fairness and opportunity. There's none of that here. The plan shuts down opportunity for any new entrant, SMME or other players in the market. It's grossly unfair to any business competing in this space and introduces a hidden subsidy for the SAPO via the back door, because no matter how atrocious or inefficient the service, the new customers, government departments and state-owned entities are forced to use the post office. There's no need for the entity to compete fairly on price or efficiency in a free market. This is a recipe for inefficiency on a massive scale, with service delivery once again the biggest victim of all. The second doctor is Minister Siyabonga Cwele, a medical doctor whose charming bedside manner has sadly failed to stop the SAPO's terminal decline. After watching from the sidelines for months as the worst and bloodiest post office strike in recent history bled customers at a fatal rate, he finally acted. You can't fault his diagnosis. With surgical precision in November last year, he cut off its head by resigning the whole SAPO board of deployed ANC cadres and union representatives. He injected hundreds of millions of taxpayers' money into the entity to keep it alive and put into administration the intensive care unit for state-owned entities. So what were the SAPO directors doing while the entity was bleeding to death as a result of their criminal negligence? Well, they got paid, and they got paid very well. Over the last 2 financial years, the chairperson of the board, the third doctor, Dr. Manzini, banked a princely 917,000 rand for attending 28 meetings. Mr. G. Motema took home 872,000 rand for 16 meetings. Ms. N. Keller pocketed a whopping 1,038,000 for 36 meetings. And Ms. M. Tetwa cashed in 1,249,000 rand for 31 meetings. The list of multi-million rand payments goes on and on. And if this isn't painful enough, the real insult to injury is the salary of the CEO, Chris Lekani, who took home 1.5 million in 2013, and a staggering 3,108,000 rand in 2014, the year the South African Post Office didn't table its annual report before Parliament, because the Auditor General couldn't sign off on those financials. While SAPO's management should run the enterprise, the board must exercise oversight by setting the direction and providing guidance. While not required to be hands-on, the board shouldn't be hands-off either,
Honourable Member,
as this one was, bringing the SAPO to complete collapse. A developmental mandate is no excuse for a lack of good governance. In fact, given the shareholder is the government, and therefore the South African people, good governance by directors of state-owned companies is just as important as that imposed on private sector companies. The symptoms of bad governance were clearly visible as far back as a year ago. The independent auditor's report for year ended March 2014 found, and I quote, a material uncertainty which may cast significant doubt on the entity's ability to continue as a going concern in the future. For the year ended March 2015, the report found the entity had breached several sections of the Companies Act. Critically, and I quote, the entity didn't comply with Section 129 of the Companies Act to consider a resolution to commence voluntary business rescue proceedings when it had reasonable grounds to believe that the entity was financially distressed, and holds the board directly responsible for this serious breach of corporate governance. The Companies Act makes no distinction between executive and non-executive directors. It applies to all of them. Section 77 of the Companies Act holds directors to account for consenting to carry on a company's business despite knowing that it amounted to reckless trading. So who will be held to account? I must acknowledge the Minister for having the courage to resign the sickly board in November last year, ending their free ride. But will he send a message to other delinquents on the boards of state-owned companies like SAA, the SABC, and Eskom that bad governance has consequences for them personally by laying charges under the Companies Act against those directors whose negligence led to SAPO's critical condition? My fourth doctor, the Honorary Dr. President Jacob Zuma, infamously told a Selga summit recently, and I quote, "If I was a dictator, I would change a few things." The SAPO's dictator, Dr. Lushaba, is not a SAPO director either, or is he? Tell us, Minister, when will this competent South African Post Office Board you spoke about be appointed? An effective board creates value. It'll take high-quality decisions to help the SAPO achieve its objectives in a sustainable and financially responsible manner that grows its value, enhances its reputation, and builds confidence amongst employees, customers, suppliers, and all stakeholders. This is what we call good governance. South Africans who are sick to death of bailing out inefficient state-owned enterprises expect and are entitled to nothing less, especially when backdoor subsidies are used to cloak protectionist inefficiency. In conclusion, House Chairperson, I suggest Dr. Lushaba resist the urge to accept a SAPO board appointment. It may turn out to be a hospital pass, because if the Minister won't hold past, present, and future directors accountable, rest assured that the Democratic Alliance will. Thank you, ma'am.
Ragela phambili simema umhlonishwa Qweniso.
Enkosi mhlali ngaphambili. CEFF asizosupporta le budget. Turning telecommunications and postal services into departments has led to the fragmentation of some of the most crucial components of communications, leaving this entire department and its entities in disarray. Since this department split about a year ago, both heads of the new departments have not only failed to reintegrate this country's communication framework and give direction to all stakeholders, but have spent valuable time fighting over who gets what portion of the Department of Communications. It is no surprise then that this department is unaware of the challenges faced by most of its entities, the issues of broadband infraco, and is a classic example. Broadband infraco may close in September, and this department's annual performance plan has not only omitted such crucial information, but has simply swept the entire entity under the carpet as if it does not exist. This department does not have a chief financial officer, and a similar trend can be observed in its entities where crucial funded positions are vacant or held by unqualified people who have been in acting positions for lengthy periods. This has resulted in the overuse of expensive consultants and crucial components of this department lacking leadership, accountability, planning, and coordination. We can all agree, Mr. Minister, that access to information offers access to economic and educational opportunities and has the potential to significantly improve public service delivery across all corners of the country. Access in South Africa, however, is skewed towards the rich, and government continues to provide cutting-edge infrastructure to well-off communities, avoiding poor and isolated communities that need it the most. South Africa is lagging behind in providing equal access to fast, advanced broadband, and South Africa's mobile services are amongst the most expensive in the world. The cost of voice calls and mobile data is a big concern for the millions of South Africans for whom every rand saved means more money available for the other basic necessities. It is therefore quite irresponsible that government has failed to create legislation that will enforce fair, regulated prices. If we want to do more than pay lip service to economic growth and job creation and improve service delivery through universal service and access, then government must step up and recognize the potential
Round up,
broadband
Honourable
that has to
Member.
mitigate development challenges. In conclusion, Mr. Minister, you must pay the 150 post office workers that have been waiting for their salaries for the past 8 years, if so much money can be shifted and be paid to management. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Siyobiza manje usekela ngqongqoshe umhlonishwa umkhize.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I would like to acknowledge our Minister, Dr. Siyabonga Cwele, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament in our midst, organized labor, captains of industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to emphasize a few points about the value of what we are talking about today. When we talk about ICTs, they cannot be for their own sake. When we talk about ICTs, we are talking about means to fast-track access to knowledge, education, skills, all aimed at improving the quality of life for all. As honorable members on the right-hand side started saying, from the minister to the chairperson, that we have a huge responsibility that we're given by the voters to ensure that they do not remain marginalized, but they become active participants in the economy, in the development of the economy of this country. And really, ICTs indeed, it's one measure through which we can see people coming in and be included in big numbers. Honorable members, when talking about ICTs, one cannot help but to remember all those who led before us, like Honorable Ivy Matsipe Kasapur, for whom we had a lecture, mainly because they chanted the way. They made us to realize and to understand that information communication technologies are not for the elite, but are for ensuring that people have easier access to government services. And the minister have made reference to top priorities. We, on the side of the executives, under the leadership of the ruling party, we are determined to play an active role in reaching out to the most remote rural areas. I've got quite a number of guests in the midst who come from those areas. If time allows, I'll specifically acknowledge them. But I want to start with the difficult one, that we have taken time. We don't want to claim easy victories. We've looked at the report on the ICT global monitoring of the World Economic Forum, which said South Africa has dropped in terms of the rating from 70 to 75 position out of 143 countries. And our intervention is clear. We are grateful that they still said we're one of the leading countries within the continent. But we are grateful because we have the National Development Plan, which gives us an opportunity to set clear targets, to consolidate in terms of partnerships between government, social partners, and the private sector. And our targets in terms of the NDP are to achieve 100% broadband penetration by 2020, as well as transform 70% of all frontline services to e-service by 2019. And of course, there are challenges in the system. One of the challenges is that we have a huge illiterate and marginalized communities. The question then is, how are we going to make it happen? How are we going to realize the targets? We are reviving the Tusong Centers model by having localized ICT hubs in the areas that the minister spoke about, which were articulated by the president, so that whatever we do is consolidated and you are able to look as to the numbers as to how well we are doing. The question of ensuring that our services are online is critical. It creates an agency to all of us to have an appetite for e-skills, because without those skills, we won't be able to utilize the services. And of course, there are quite a number of issues that are pressing under adult learning. We also have a huge component of young people who are excluded. Hence, the project of youth digital inclusion becomes a priority, says to fight youth unemployment. South Africa Connect is very strong on skills development. We are in the process of merging our Skills Development Institute so as to make sure that they absorb the larger numbers. The minister have made reference to young people in our midst as our guest. We deliberately will be looking for people who will participate more and more from the very districts of the vulnerable people, and ensuring that through our centers, our INESI and other skill centers, they identify them and they take them through the process and give them opportunities of entering the sector, and others, those with capabilities, ensuring that they forge ahead and they go to universities. Also, government has a Techno Girls program. When we talk ICTs, one of the major problems is that people do not go far in terms of engineering and science degrees. We have a highly structured program which different departments, including ours, are partnering with in taking young pupils and putting them through a 3-year program and ensuring that by the time they finish their matric, companies have helped them to master their careers in the sector, to identify institutions where they will improve their learning, but also assist them with financial assistance. We continue to work closely with our universities so as to ensure that through their policies of transformation, they also assist to bring about gender imbalances in the system, which is also very critical in terms of our system. We are part of the ITU, and we have used the International Day of the Girl Child, where some companies have said she will connect, to make sure that we also go to one of the schools sponsored by Telkom, KwaMhlanga, to identify children who will be assisted by some of our SOEs who attended and assist them to go through high school and go to universities. We've been to very difficult areas where normally ICTs are not spoken about. Like we created a platform at Tlhabane called Ulwazi ICT. And I think Ubosa Lutwabe Bosa is here. She had invited us to talk about gender-based violence. And our SOEs came up with a platform whereby the community, the village, including municipalities, they have to interact using the ICT platform to fight gender-based violence, including the creation of e-files. And I'm grateful to see that government has a clear policy on e-government. And the creation of this special department of ICTs really gives us an opportunity to strengthen our strategies in terms of ensuring that government officials, the community at large, have clear strategies on e-strategies, so that besides school connectivity, which has been really the face and the champion of our strategy, e-health and e-dockets and all the E's, including e-commerce, are mastered by the skills that are mastered by our people, and use them for accessing critical information and access opportunities. As the chairperson and the minister to a great extent have referred to issues of transformation directly or indirectly. Also, we've had a seminar on SMMEs. For us, that's the entry point and a point whereby our private sector, our SOEs, have an opportunity to increase the numbers of people who will enter the system. It's an incubation which will ensure sustainability. Within it, we see opportunities for manufacturing, where instead of being consumers of all the gadgets that we are talking about, but we begin to produce not only for our communities, but for the continent at large. Also, we're in a process of finalizing and implementing the BEE in the ICT sector, and we'll constantly monitor that with a clear agenda of fast-tracking the entry of our young people, so that more and more we don't talk about the ICTs for the elite, but we talk about the ICTs for all. Honorable Chairperson, as reference has been made, SETA is a critical player when it comes to e-strategies. And it's a strategic move to transfer the SETA to the Department of Telecoms. We will support the leadership of SETA and ensure that they focus on their mandate, that they will strengthen their corporate governance, but above everything, that we hold them accountable to ensure that our government's rating on putting services online improves drastically. We do not want to hear complaints about difficulties in terms of ICT not working. We do hope that the leadership of the captains of industry will also spend much of their resources in assisting us in creating this information society that we are badly in need of. Also, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the women in ICT, because they play a major role in ensuring that in our industries, there is constant conversation about the importance of including those who otherwise would not have come on board on their own. We see them as mentors, we see them as supporters of those who otherwise will be marginalized and would not succeed in these companies. Our partner departments that have worked closely with the Department of Higher Education and Training, it is our wish that they really dedicate some of their colleges to the ICTs, so as to make sure that in this revolution, which is so critical for upping up our efforts to transform society, are dedicated to the development of the ICT skills, with an aim of ensuring that even our companies then use them as colleges for transformation, for enterprise development, and for skilling people and giving them the opportunity of entering the value chain. Chairperson, it's important for me to also thank the leadership of the department. I see the DDGs are here, who have held us by the hand since our arrival in terms of shaping our thinking about policies and understanding the sector as a whole.
Round up, Honorable Deputy Minister.
We also thank the Minister of Telecoms and Postal Services for constant meetings whereby we've engaged with all the players and got clear guidance in terms of priorities. And ngiyanemukela nonke abaphume eHluhluwe, abaphume eJoslovo, Eastern Cape, njalo njalo. Siyabonga kakhulu, siyathemba niyoqhubeka ukusupporta izikole esizakhile. Baphume emaphandleni la ohamba besihleka sithi uhamba ngogravel for 3 hours. Uzwe ikhanda selidilaya lithi ushayo uvalo. Siyabonga kakhulu kuba khona kwenu.
Siyabonga usekela ngqongqoshe. Ons gaan nou voort en noem agbare lid Hlengwa na die podium.
Baie dankie, agbare voorsitter. You know, Honorable Minister, whilst we want to honestly support your good intentions, which we do, and the good work that the department is intended to do, the reality that we must confront is that to begin with, this department should not even exist. There is simply no reason why the Department of Communications had to be split into two departments. It has caused serious overlaps in the sector and induced levels of confusion which are really unnecessary, hindering, of course, the principles of accountability in the communications sector. It has bloated the bureaucracy, and what it has done, it has taken much needed money, which should actually be used to roll out development and so on, and instead it is just now paying ministers, deputy ministers, and now creating DGs and so on, and just creating a top-heavy bureaucracy which is totally unnecessary, because what should have been done, the Department of Communications should have been strengthened better with the existing structures in order for it to work. So, Honorable Minister, whilst we don't doubt the work that you are doing, the point of departure is that your department should not be in existence to begin with. And on that basis, we cannot support this budget vote. Also want to say, Honorable Minister, as the Deputy Minister has said, that the World Economic Forum says South Africa has dropped 5 places to 75 out of 143 countries in the Network Readiness Index, with Mauritius ranked at 45, while our neighbors are ranked at 135. It just indicates that we're just not doing well, and the NDP in itself is very clear in identifying those challenges when it says, and I quote, compared with best international standards, South Africa's ICT infrastructure is abysmal. And so, we also want to say that the social impact of ICT in countries such as Singapore has improved government efficiency. That's not happening in South Africa. And in short, the quality of citizen engagement for policy making remains high and made it possible to increase the availability of internet to schools. South Africa lagging behind there as well. In the modern world we live in, South Africa cannot afford to continue to deny learners access to the internet and technological advancements due to the gross failures of our government's ICT failures. Whilst there is, of course, cherry picking that we're doing well in that school and in that school, I mean, there's thousands of schools, and we are clearly way behind where we should be. And with the United Nations having declared access to the internet a human right, this is a major indictment on South Africa. So we need a clear digital strategy, reduction in data costs, accessibility to technology by the majority of our people, and proper infrastructure to ensure our nation's ICT and that we move forward. We cannot continue to be on the cusp of technological advancement while allowing Telkom, for example, to carry a monopoly on broadband access. If government continues to claim that we are advancing in ICT development while allowing Telkom to charge high prices, it will continue to shoot itself in the foot at every single turn. Moreover, you see, those members there, because you can't read it fluently as we do. So that is your problem. And then that's why you heckle like that. Don't do that, honorable members. Don't do that. I want to also say, Minister, the major impact of the high cost of communication hinder most students in South Africa. And the ineffectiveness of the post office is of detriment to learners who are learning through correspondence, particularly through UNISA. And so with that chaos going on, it would mean that there will be chaos in the academic lives of young South Africans who on a daily basis are struggling. They cannot afford to communicate because it's high. They cannot afford to travel because the travel costs are high. And I heard the Deputy Minister speaking about all the E's. She forgot the e-tolls, which are just adding to the impact of traveling, which young South Africans have to be faced with on a daily basis.
Very much.
I thank you.
Can we now call Honorable Shilembe?
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and distinguished guests. The Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services seems to be in a perpetual state of turmoil and inaction. The Portfolio Committee has expressed a number of concerns about, which include the outdated policies of the department, failure of the department to implement legislated policies and regulations, insufficient coordination and planning by the department and its SOC entities. substandard level of coordination in terms of planning across all spheres of government, no chief financial officer. The list goes on and on. The NFP shares these concerns, Chairperson. Yesterday, severe criticism about the failure to comply with the international agreed deadline to migrate from analog to digital terrestrial television was expressed during the vote on the Department of Communications budget. And such criticism is equally relevant today. When one looks at the budget tabled here today, it is apparent why such failure is imminent. Only 3% of the budget is allocated to international affairs and trade. This is the program that is tasked to coordinate and ensure compliance with international agreements and obligations. Lack of priority placed on this program is, in our opinion, an indication of the lack of direction which is prevalent in the department. Another concern we have is the insufficient allocation for the department's policy, research, and capacity development program. Chairperson, research is the cornerstone of generating new knowledge, and development depends on knowledge. When the department neglects to give priority to research, it is limiting development potential, and future generations will pay the price of its inability to make the right decision today. The NFP also concurs with the Portfolio Committee in questioning the increased allocation for procurement services of consultant and advertising. We view this as a wasteful and bordering on being shameful. As for the state of the post office, the NFP is dismayed at the prospect of job losses, which are envisaged in the turnaround strategy as proposed. Once we understand the need for restructuring and organizational renewal in the postal service, we question whether losses at the scale envisaged is necessary and justifiable. Despite all the objections and concerns related, Chairperson, the NFP reluctantly supports the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sweswi ni vitana Mchaviseki Swell.
Mfambisi wa ntirho wa siku eka ministara wa ndzawulo ya swa tiposo eka vatirhikulori endlwini ku katsa ni vaendzi va hina ndza mi pfuxela. I am humbled by the opportunity given to me to participate in today's budget vote for the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services. I must say right from the onset that the ANC support the budget. The picture of the post office is not as bad as what Honorable Mackenzie would like us to believe. And this is why. The post office has been identified by the ANC as the one of the state-owned enterprises that should play a critical role in the radical socio-economic transformation and development of the country. With 1.2 million kilometers, South Africa is the 25th largest country in the world, having more than 2,400 postal outlets. The penetration of post office services in the country, that is just over 52 million, is felt in all communities, particularly in rural areas where other service providers are not accessible. SAPO delivers millions of pieces of mail to over 5 million addresses every year. This is amplified by the recent Census of Statistics South Africa's community preferences, which indicated that although the market position for conventional postal services is declining. Many people just find paper records more reliable and trustworthy. The South African Post Office is also part of the global postal services, which today processes and delivers an estimated 381 billion of letters and 6 billion parcels annually using an awesome worldwide network linking them together through sophisticated processes and technologies. SAPO on its own, it's a massive organization and a major player in the communications industry and the South African economy at large. With nearly 22,000 employees, it employs more people than any government department and has more employees than many companies in the ICT sector. The mail business, which is the key generator for SAPO, launched the first South African Postal Operators Association Forum in Durban on the 12th to 14th February 2013, in line with giving effect the continuation of a collective victory against colonialism and the continuous solidarity between the countries under the banner of the South African Development Community through realizing South Africa's compliance with SADC Protocol on Communication, Transport, and Meteorology, signed in 1996. To this end, the postal networks also provide financial, logistics, and e-commerce services to countless customers, increasingly moving into the field of electronic services to better meet customers' evolving communication needs. Other challenges include the fact that during the committee oversight, a number of SAPO officials raised with the committee the challenge of poor or the inability of the IT system to function optimally during peak times, which contributes to poor customer service. Therefore, the focus of the minister should be on modernizing the entire postal system. We note the turnaround strategy that was presented before the committee by the administrator and the SAPO team, which is bold, innovative, and ambitious. Honorable Mackenzie believes this strategy will not work. On the contrary, we believe it is the right medicine for the right sickness. At the same time, the vacancy of the entire board, coupled with two critical senior managers, the Group Chief Executive Officer and the Group Chief Financial Officer, poses a major risk in the successful implementation of the turnaround strategy's planned 3-year targets. We therefore call upon the South African Post Office to fill the vacant positions as a matter of urgency with competent people. In France, which is one of the countries that has shown innovation, for instance, La Poste has introduced a product called Letter Verde, green letter, at a price approximately 5% below the ordinary priority letter. The product is marketed as an environmentally friendly alternative to priority mail and guarantees delivery within 48 hours. Just as the example above, this product increases flexibility for La Poste and allows for the aggregation of volume to specific delivery days. I'm raising these issues because fixing the postal system in South African context, where the country has the highest Gini coefficient, is no easy task. Despite recent modest economic growth and reduced overall levels of national poverty over several years, South Africa is trapped in a cycle of high inequality, extremely high unemployment. Fixing the postal system will require tremendous political will, and for that reason, the minister has intervened on the post office on the part of all the players. As for as information technologies become an ever greater part of South Africa's life through the realization of the rolling out of 100% broadband penetration in 2020. The reason for the existence of SAPO will gradually become pressing. The need for immediate change is also pressing. The important goal is improving overall efficiency in the postal system and improving service for the customers, not to preserve SAPO as we know it. As long as South Africans want to move pieces of paper around the country in planes and in trucks, a postal system is necessary. In conclusion, Chairperson, the opposition has the whole time in the world to seek, search, and find problems and just talk about them. While we in the ANC do not just find these problems, we confront them and deal with them and provide solutions for the benefit of all. I thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, Nzam Chapsik. Can I now call upon Honorable Carter?
Chair, it sounds like I need protection even before I've started. Chairperson, there was a time after 1994 when there was great excitement and great hope about a wonderful future where everyone would cooperate and everything would work better than ever before. Everyone wants to be part of a good story. Last year, the ruling party went on and on about the good story. Like all stories, this was all fiction with very little facts. SAPO is an example of a good institute gone bad. Suppliers have not been paid from August last year, nor have Siemens and Syntel. Letters are no longer sorted by machines. Will Syntel carry on, and will Siemens return? Will any of the suppliers get paid? And are any suppliers willing to still do business with SAPO? Will SAA carry mail for it? It is shocking that a state entity can refuse to carry mail. Cadre deployment has made many millionaires, but at what cost to the nation? On which date will the suppliers get paid? Where will the money come from? And will suppliers get 100% of what they are owed? Secondly, Honourable Minister, why did the government not step in at an earlier stage, but allowed the crisis to become full-blown? We hear the regular chant of accelerated and shared sustainable economic growth that positively impacts on the well-being of all South Africans. Let us have some proof of these outcomes of economic growth so that what is set out in the estimates of national expenditure can become more than a fairy tale to amuse the nation when load shedding is taking place. This is a new version of an emperor with no clothes, wanting his subject to marvel at his finery when he had nothing on. The NDP recognizes all too well the importance of developing a super-fast, robust, reliable, secure, and affordable ICT infrastructure and service. Our country's Internet Service Providers Association is not putting enough money on broadband so that by 2020, every South African who wants to can actually have access. Finance Minister Nene has allocated 1.1 billion to the expansion of broadband connectivity. How will this money be utilized? Internet Solutions is busy building the Cape Town to Johannesburg super internet highway using the Infinera DTNX platform. This is going to offer speeds like we have never seen before. What alignment is there going to be between what Internet Solutions is doing and what government is striving for? We need faster and cheaper internet. Minister, broadband service providers are coining it at the expense of the poor. Before 1994, there was racial discrimination.
You are left with 1 minute.
In 2015, we have internet discrimination. Any country that seeks accelerated growth that is shared has to come from internet accessibility and affordability. Minister, you can make a great legacy for yourself, just as Kader Asmal did as the Minister of Water Affairs. You have to ensure that South Africa has the greatest broadband penetration that is possible. This job requires a leader with a sense of a mission and a strong board and department. The department must work with missionary zeal to finalize its local loop strategy. Getting role players around the table is the quickest way of of achieving rapid results. I just want to go to the latest Akamai State of Internet report tells us that we should be alarmed about South Africa's broadband speeds and adoption rates. The global average connection speed is 3.6 Mbps. Ours is only 2.3. The global average peak connection speed is 17.9. Ours only 6.8. In South Korea, the speed is 22.2. We need fast action, Minister, to get us fast broadband. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Order. Order, honorable members. Honorable
Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable members, our guest, Kilirulela Khaiban. The Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services mandate is to improve the quality of life of the people of South Africa in the information and communications technology, that is ICT. One of the priorities in this department is rural development in a form of connectivity in rural areas whose communities were made foreigners in their own country, but all that became history after 1994. South Africa, under the leadership of ANC, is a country of choice among many. People come as asylum seekers, tourists, others for education, health, or seeking permanent residence. All this happened because South Africa is a better place to live in. Yes, we do acknowledge the unfortunate situation of xenophobic attacks by the manner in which the ANC-led government intervened and other foreign nationals vowing they are not going anywhere, but they are here to stay, tells you more about the hospitality in South Africa with its people full of reconciliatory spirit. This is nothing else but fortitude, meaning courage in a painful situation. That's how far people have confidence in this government. It is through information and communication technology that people know about South Africa. It is through the postal service that people will connect by letters and public telephones without personal contact. It is a fact that before 1994, people would have never had thought about South Africa as a country of destination. The ANC-led government will always exhaust all avenues to make South Africa a better place to live in. Chairperson, information and communication technologies, the technology markets are being revolutionized by the rapid adoption of internet-based services, wireless technologies, and by the convergence of previously district ICTs. These services emanating from the ICT market have the potential to contribute to rapid socio-economic development. Therefore, society depends greatly on the utilization of different electronic information and communication networks and on the use of digital services and contents made possible by the department. To this end, telecommunications and postal policy aims at ensuring that all households, business and organizations have well-functioning and reliable data connections and services. The operating environment for the policy is, in addition, technological development, strongly shaped by the global character of the sector, changing user habits and the challenges related to the reliability and safety of activities. Over and above, the department is working very hard to ensure affordability of ICT. Centec plays a major role in ensuring the distribution of signal, thus enabling us to watch TV and listen to radio and ensure rural communities also benefit. The decision by President Jacob Zuma to rename the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services is sound and enables the department to focus on its core mandate. Internationally, countries like Finland have a Ministry of Transport and Communications. In Sweden, there is Ministry of Telecommunications and Postal Services. The list is endless. Therefore, the debate about name change does not hold water. Instead, through the department, government has for the first time published SA Connect, which aims to connect 90% of the population by year 2019. The current broadband policy places greater demand on ICASA to promote broadband access, including a data transmission rate at a speed of 5 megabytes per second by 2016. The significance of this policy refers to data connections that enable effortless use of online connect and services. The broadband speed is in line with international statistics, with a minimum speed for broadband connections at 256 kbs. To emphasize the importance of ICT, in June 2009, France's highest court went as far as to declaring that access to internet is a human right, and so is South Africa. Chairperson, I'd like to substantiate my statement regarding human rights and show the world the challenges faced by the ANC-led government, and it seems the more people preach change, the more they repeat history and resist transformation. Their former minister, P.W. Botha, said in his cabinet speech in 1985, it was in Sunday Times, "Come to think of what would happen if one day you wake up and on the throne sits a kafir. We have all the reasons to leave the Mandelas to rot in prison. We do not pretend like other whites that we like blacks. The fact that they look like human beings and act like human beings does not necessarily make them sensible human beings." This is one of the reasons others will not support the budget, because it is meant largely to enhance the quality of life of the people who are perceived not to be human beings. I don't know where does EFF stand on this one. Their IQ stands in question. Ignorant or retarded, I'm not sure. But a shame not knowing yourself. By a song, retellosipeleke ANC, re na le tshitiso e ngata parlamenteng, ya batho ba sa dumelane le tekatekano tsa ditšhelete. La se re bua ka di-budget tsa di-grants tsa go fepa bana ba lona, malapeng a kotwana di mahetleng, ha ba e dumele le yona, empa ba re le ba voutele. Ka mantswe a mang, ha ba dumelane le ICT e be teng dikolong, hore bana ba rona e le setjhaba sa rona sa kamoso se ruwe tsebo. Le se ke la thetseha ha ba fihla ba ema mona parlamenteng ba re I'm an African. When they don't embrace the values of Africanism, they should be saying I want to be an African. To promote digital development, the department has also launched a program for growth, innovation, digital services, and evolution in line with the National Development Plan. Coming to ICT policy review, the National Development Plan calls for the ICT infrastructure to be expanded and modernized.
Thank you on that score.
The ANC supports the budget.
Ngibiza umhlonishwa Mbinda.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, distinguished guests, the PAC supports this budget. The telecommunications and postal services are the backbone of our economy, particularly the trade. It is vital for human connection. Hence, the level of investment in this department should reflect the seriousness of being players in the knowledge economy. Communication infrastructure has been upgraded to what road and rail was in the industrial economic era. In the endeavor to make ourselves serious players in the world affairs, the PAC is pleased with the mobile internet penetration. The mobile operators have been deploying trend-setting technology, which has made most of our people to have access to information. Nevertheless, the PAC is concerned with the prices of both voices and data that are too high. It is not adequate for the Independent Communication Authority of South Africa to drive the process of bringing the prices down. This newly created department has to participate in this discussion. As the PAC, we are of the view that as long as we remain a nation that does not aggressively roll out broadband, we will stay behind in the knowledge economy. Furthermore, not adequately exploiting Centec, bringing stability, then we will remain behind in terms of voice and audio broadcasting. The PAC is concerned about the executive part of the state, the way they treated the postal service. It is treated sometimes as an unwanted child. Although the postal service remains the workhorse of the economy, the quality of appointments of the board of directors of South African Post Office leave a lot to be desired. We have seen a lack of commercial savvy and suspected unethical tendency in the people that are appointed in this board. Furthermore, it is interesting that the previous board, mainly if all, when all mainly if not all were health professionals, which makes us question the balance in the board in terms of experience. Moreover, we see a trend of appointing highly inexperienced executive directors. The PAC notes that the department has delayed the release of many forensic reports on the South African Post Office. Furthermore, we have not seen any action coming out of the criminal investigation conducted by Special Investigating Unit. There are rumors that those reports implicate a number of managers and directors.
You left with 1 minute.
Honorable Chair, a weak postal service reflects a weak government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbinda. Can we now call upon Honorable Shin?
Chairperson, honourable colleagues, for South Africa's ICT sector, the past year has been its most exasperating since the dawn of democracy. For more than 2 decades, stakeholders have participated in workshops, forums, policy reviews, often with high-powered international players, to advise the ANC how to make our nation the ICT powerhouse of Africa. Through the Electronic Communications Act of 2005, we took our first steps towards joining the worldwide knowledge economy through converged electronic communications. For a brief period at the end of the 4th Parliament, there was an encouraging spurt of activity. At the start of this, the 5th Parliament, we took a great leap backwards. On a cabinet whim, the former Department of Communications was split. This drastic move was contrary to international trends and the recommendations of the extensively researched ICT Policy Green Paper, gazetted in January 2014. For the new Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services, the result of the split is, for example, a legal quagmire that has created uncertainty and mistrust in the sector, inexplicable delays in making critical decisions. For example, the spectrum policy has been treading water since 2011. Little tangible movement on implementing South Africa Connect, a missed deadline on developing a policy to, for example, remove local government red tape that is the major hindrance in laying cables, foot dragging on the future of broadband infraco, the expulsion of South Africa from the International Telecommunications Union, a dysfunctional department subject to SIU probes and disciplinary hearings from the Director General down, and more missed targets than ever before, and a budget underspend of 49% at the end of last year. If you still practice medicine, Honourable Minister, you'd be facing a malpractice suit. You said it would take 3 years for the new department to settle down. We can't afford this. In the past year, we've dropped 5 places on the World Economic Forum's Network Readiness Index. At 75, we lag Mongolia, Bulgaria, and Armenia. In Africa, we lag Mauritius and Seychelles. We can't afford to waste more time radically disrupting the sector in the sake of political whimsy. Chairperson, recently the Minister said the lack of broadband networks reaching all South African citizens was a failure of the market. What rubbish. It's been hobbled by a government that holds many stakeholder meetings, but is deaf to the sector's pleas for policy and regulatory certainty, less red tape, and rigorous implementation of the EC Act. This ANC government must take the blame for broadband inertia. Get out of the way, Minister, and let the ICT sector deliver. It understands that telecommunications eradicates remoteness and gives people, irrespective of location, the opportunity to become internet-savvy citizens and seek economic freedom. That South Africa's use of ICTs grows at all is thanks to the private sector's commitment to facilitating our economic and developmental opportunities. For example, the 3 mobile companies plan to spend about 21 billion rand this year on telecommunications infrastructure. Good news, but there's a double-edged sword here. They are taking the capital expenditure route to deliver more and better services because the cheaper option, using wireless broadband spectrum, is denied them. This is thanks to the political meddling, crony favoritism, and sheer incompetence that have bedeviled the transition to digital broadcasting. This has halted the release of analog spectrum for wireless broadband use. This means mobile call rates remain high, proudly brought to you by the ANC. Last week, Honourable Minister, you launched the National ICT Forum to consult stakeholders. Why? What can its participants tell you that surpasses the input recently given to the ICT Policy Review Panel, or that of South Africa Connect's National Broadband Advisory Council? They've been waiting to meet you for a year. Perhaps you should listen to them. And how can an ICT forum not include a regulator? Where was ICASA last week? Minister, I challenge you that in your departmental reorganization, you bring ICASA home where it belongs. One of the chambers in the new forum includes cybersecurity. Why? A cybersecurity advisory council to advise you on policy and technical issues was appointed in December 2013. This council has often asked to meet with you. You have ignored those invitations. The ICT sector's impression of the minister's first year is that he is disengaged and disinterested. The strategic plan of CETA, presented to the Portfolio Committee on April 21st, clearly illustrates ministerial indifference. It was a poorly photocopied cut-and-paste assemblage of previous reports. A schoolboy would be embarrassed to hand this in as homework. Honourable Minister, you signed this report on March the 15th. Did you read it? Maybe not, as each page was marked confidential. CETA has gate-crashed the Western Cape's Connected Government project. By the end of this year, rural citizens will connect the internet at 215 far-flung public libraries. Throughout the province, citizens will get free Wi-Fi internet at 384 government offices. Where the DA governs, it delivers. The DA and national government will do things differently, like we will not hand-pick a JSE-listed company to head the national broadband network. We will make it an open process where all network stakeholders can be involved and manage it. The DA and national government will actually motivate and incentivize private sector to roll out this network. We will foster regulatory certainty by establishing a skilled, properly resourced and trusted regulator. We will simplify license conditions to foster a sustainable, price-competitive, consumer-friendly market. There will be opportunities for all to prosper. Personal and freedom, economic freedom will be promoted and protected.
Thank you very much. Now a group Akbare led J.D. Killian.
Chairperson, Minister, Deputy Minister, colleagues and captains of industry in the gallery. Information and communication technology is internationally recognized as a strong lever for social and economic development. Several speakers referred to that. It leads to job creation, small business development, and the inclusion of marginalized communities. The National Development Plan reiterated that a country that seeks to be globally competitive must have an effective ICT system, which it called the backbone to a modern economy and its connections to the global economy. The NDP took serious stock of our ICT reality. More South Africans use mobile phones than listen to radio, 29 million as opposed to 28 million. Despite the growth in the ICT sector, our people have not benefited from affordable, universal access to a full range of communication services, including broadband. Most state interventions in the ICT sector were disappointing. Our country was lagging behind on the deployment of fast, advanced broadband, and it was characterized by policy constraints, limited competition, weaknesses in institutional arrangements, etc. We don't need the DA to give us an assessment and a SWOT analysis. The NDP did that. National Commission did that. Other interesting ICT realities are almost 10% of the GDP is spent on ICT goods and services, but ICT equipment is still mostly being imported. It's much reduced, and smartphones are available from 600 Rand, but we need to do more. We have doubled internet access in recent years, although mobile and fixed line data costs are still far too high. According to Stats SA household survey, 40.9% of SA households have at least one member who either used the internet at home or had access to it elsewhere. That is progress. However, 30.85% of South African households use mobile devices to access internet. And unfortunately, 18% of rural households have to do the same. And that is indeed very expensive, as the PAC honourable member said. South Africa has exceeded the critical milestones of 40% access to voice communication and 20% access to broadband, which is regarded as critical milestones. Now we need to push to achieve the NDP goal of 100% broadband high-speed penetration, 100 megabytes per second by 2013. The NDP recommended significant interventions, and it is worthwhile to read them. I will, because of time, not go into the detail. I would like to touch on the ICT policy review process. The Honourable Minister has already referred to it. It was a very thorough ICT sector assessment, which was commenced in December 2012. And the Honourable Shin has indicated, why do we need to do it again? This was the major ICT policy review that was foreseen by this government. It said that we had regulatory failure. Let us look and assess the market and see where we went wrong. The process followed by the panel was a very inclusive process. It was run over 2 years, and it had different milestones, altogether 5 stages. It resulted in it was a framing paper which was published, and it was linked to the principles and the policy objectives of the South African Constitution, the NDP, and other government policy frameworks. The second milestone was a research project. It was a thorough impact assessment to determine where we went wrong, because we have not seen the benefits in all communities, in particular in rural areas. This informed the Green Paper, which was released in January last year. The fourth was the discussion paper published in November 2014. And the last one was the recommendations report, which was published now in March this year. Throughout, extensive consultation over a 2-year period. The report makes 168 far-reaching recommendations towards the development of a new and forward-looking integrated ICT policy for South Africa. And government will implement those in regulation and in law. And we will adjust where necessary. We will make sure that those entities that are not performing the right mandate, that we all align them to support this new approach. SA Connect, the Minister has referred to SA Connect before. The fact of the matter is that SA Connect will, in the course of this year, link additional government institutions and government buildings and reach far-reaching areas, as the Minister indicated, the rural districts of our country. The role of all public entities reporting to the department has been identified with SMART goals set to achieve the targets. The ANC is keen to ensure that existing ICT infrastructure should be used and upgraded to fast-track connectivity for rural communities. We know that the SA Connect pilot phase will be run in those 8 rural municipalities, and the Honourable Minister announced them, and he also said so in our committee meeting. Let me conclude by saying the following. The ANC is committed to turning our country into a knowledge economy and a dynamic, connected information society by 2030. We will do so by ensuring that communication costs are reduced and that all communities, also those in the remotest areas, there where the private sector, and may I add, the DA has no reach, they will be connected to high-speed internet access. Schools, hospitals, and clinics will become community hubs where people can tap into the benefits of internet connectivity. Knowledge, jobs, and opportunities.
Order, honourable members.
As far as the comments on the DA would be concerned.
Honourable Killian, just hold on a second. Honourable members, I thought that you were going to sustain the level of noise that we experienced before. Now you are raising it up. We are drowning the speaker. Then we can't hear the speaker. Can we please sustain the levels that we had before and continue to be honorable? Honorable Killian, may you proceed?
You see, Honorable Chairperson, the DA's input in today's debate makes one wonder about whether they are part of a different country than the rest of us are. Do they realize where we come from? The DA is clearly unaware that the majority of South Africans still rely on traditional mailing services. Therefore, we have to make SAPU work for all the people of South Africa. Furthermore, I have never negated my past, but may I say, it is interesting to see how many honorable DA members are trying to wipe out their past through their connections, including the Honorable Dean McPherson, whose father was a major funder. In fact, he will now inherit a much smaller fortune. Chair, to come back. The NDP...
Order. Can you give her 1 minute to finish up?
I am old, but I'm not that old. Chairperson, the IFP mentioned Singapore.
Order.
Chair, it is all...
Order, honorable members. You are unfortunately extending the time that we're not supposed to extend. She had only 1 minute to finish.
At the end of my speech.
Member, are you on a point of order?
No, I would like to ask if the Speaker would like to take a question.
Okay.
At the end of my speech,
because
yes,
she's spoken about
order, honourable members. Order, honourable members.
It is her husband work.
Just hold on a second.
Please.
Order.
Extend my speaking time.
Order, honourable members.
Chair,
it's one person that we are checking whether she can take the question. Honourable Killian, can you take the question?
At the end of my speech, yes.
Okay.
At the end of my speech.
After the speech, can you allow her to continue?
Chairperson, it is good that the IFP member wants to compare us to the best in the world. It's always good to target the best in the world, but we must be practical. Singapore has 5.6 million people. How do we compare ourselves with 54 million to Singapore? That country had its independence from the United Kingdom in 1965. They could build themselves up.
On a point of order, Honourable Chair.
We only recently achieved.
Just hold on a second. Honourable Sema.
Honourable Chair, through you, I was just checking if the member will take a question.
Honourable members.
There's one chair.
Hold on, honourable members. Can we check with the speaker on the podium? Honourable Killian, can you take a question?
At the end of my speech, yes, after I've concluded.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Sema. You may proceed.
Honourable Chairperson, Britain has fared quite well. It's in the upper rankings amongst the first 10. But Britain has a history of 200 years of democracy. They've exploited the entire Africa and took our mineral resources to build up that country. In fact, still today they sit with a Cullinan diamond. But they have 63 million people in that country. We have 54 million. Please, let us compare apples with apples. You cannot compare Switzerland with 8 million people and the size of Swaziland, if not smaller. You cannot compare geographic areas that must be covered. And therefore, we need to eradicate the past and roll out broadband to all communities, even in the remotest areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Order. Can we now call the Honorable Minister to close the debate? Honorable Minister, you now have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me thank the members for participating in the debate and the enthusiastic effort. But let me also thank those who really support this budget vote, because the ICTs and the work of this new department is so critical for our own development, not only for delivering government services, but to stimulate our businesses to grow using these ICTs, to stimulate our youth and our people to adopt these ICTs for their own development. It is the only thing which will really change the face of South African society. Chairperson, let me respond to some few of the matters which has been raised by members of the committee. Some of them were very bit skeptical, but let me thank the support for the turnaround of the post office because of the importance of this institution. I think the honorable member from the PAC, I understand why you support this, because those who stay in poorer areas, they heavily rely on the services of this institution. For those who stay in the high suburbs, they may say all sorts of things because they don't realize that the majority of the poor in South Africa today still heavily rely on the services of the post office. Chairperson, Honorable Mackenzie, is it Mackenzie or Mackenzie? Yes, Mr. Mackenzie. Yes, the targets set for the turnaround are high, but not overzealous. They are achievable. With the administrator over the last few months, working with the Minister of Finance, when they applied for a guarantee, we put those targets in 3 months to achieve. They achieve over 80% of those targets. So it is possible if you have got capable leadership who can implement and do things. That's what we are intending to appoint. And I've said we will appoint the board very, very soon, within the next month or so. Yes. And there is no over-reliance on the government 30% set aside. Yes, there is no over-reliance. The key thing to the strategy is to divest the services, to reposition the company, focus on revenue other than just pushing the programs. Yes, the government set aside, there will be no one who will be forced, but SAPO will earn it because they have to go to each of the department, demonstrate what is it that they'll do differently for the benefit of their state institution. That's the approach you are facing, other than forcing people to. Let me just highlight that as we were discussing this thing with our premiers, it was quite clear that some of them, for instance, if we take the delivery of books, that the infrastructure of SAPO is one of the best. Those provinces which have chosen SAPO for delivery of the books, there are never any delays. They do better than some of the private sector companies which are there, at a much lower cost for that information. So I'm not going to speak about, yes, as the ANC government, wherever there are challenges, we are bold enough to take action. And we will continue to take action wherever there are challenges. But thanks for labeling all the former board members to be ANC cadres. I hope that they had you. But what I know as the ANC government, as I've said, we'll be very careful in ensuring that the board who are busy processing the appointment now are capable people with track record of leadership, particularly at the board level, drawn from all races of South Africa. The threat, the fear of job losses, yes, as an ANC government, we're not for job losses. Yes, everyone has accepted that there is about 3,000 to 5,000 supernumeraries in the post office. But the way we plan to do it is not to cut jobs. What we plan to do, those who are coming closer to retirement age, that will be given retirement packages. But those who are not at the retirement age, because post office will do more new services, they'll have to be trained in those areas. But some of them, we have to give them entrepreneurial skills and give them incubation for development of their own businesses. That's what we're planning to do. We are working with the unions to ensure that the impact of there will be no minimum job losses due to this turnaround. And when coming to the BBI, or broadband infrastructure, if you have listened carefully, we have said BBI is not going to be bankrupt by September. It will have cash flow challenges. Having cash flow challenges doesn't mean that you're bankrupt. They still have assets. That's why we're saying the company on its own has cut down on some of these operational costs or maintenance costs. We're saying we have to manage the cash flow so that the company will continue to be of going concern going forward, even from September. However, if you think that maybe you want to buy it, it's not for sale. Yes, it is not for sale. It is an important company for our country. We are rationalizing. That's a program we're following for now.
Round up in 1 minute.
The high cost to communicate, I think all of us agree that we have to reduce the cost to communicate. But on the ratings, I think it's very important, members, don't twist the ratings. The ratings are saying South Africa is doing very well globally when you look at the governance. So our policies are recognized by the world that they are correct. We're ranked number 20 globally. Where is the challenge is on the access and e-governance. We're rating very low. That's why we're prioritizing this project of rolling infrastructure and ensuring that we get all government offices connected so that they can implement e-governance. And we will radically increase our ratings once this progress is on track. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister and honorable members, and also our esteemed guest. Honorable members, this concludes the debate and the business of this extended public committee. The committee will now rise. Thank you very much.